Hello and welcome to the Biohackher Podcast. I'm Azra Alagich, your host and founder of Biohackher. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach specializing in longevity for women, a health and wellness journalist, writer, corporate consultant, and a biohacking advocate. Biohackher is a space where we can explore ways to optimize our health to live well longer. Whether it's through improving our nutrition, exercising, cryotherapy, supplementation, technology, and more, I'll be bringing you information and interviews with the best longevity experts to help you understand what you can do to optimize your health, prevent disease, and slow down or even reverse the symptoms of aging by taking control of your unique bio-individuality. Want to know more? Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Biohacker Podcast. As some of you might know, I'm not only a podcast host, but also an integrative nutritional health coach. As part of my mission to help women live well longer, I'm excited to share that I have launched my first Biohacker product, my Good Gut Granola. I created this recipe after navigating my own gut health issues and struggled to find healthy breakfast options that didn't taste like cardboard. My cranberry and walnut granola is gluten-free and vegan, and each ingredient has been specifically chosen because of its science-backed ability to support longevity. And I haven't compromised on taste to achieve a healthy granola. But I apologize in advance because once you start eating, you will become addicted. It's that Moorish. It's now available for my Australian listeners, and you can purchase it online from www.biohack-her.com, where you can also download a free copy of my ebook, Biohacker Live Well Longer, a beginner's guide to biohacking for women to optimize your health. G'day guys, thanks for joining me today. I know how time poor many of you are, and I'm glad and grateful you've taken the time out to learn how you can improve your health and longevity. Today I'm joined by Chris Barnes, the founder of Chris Barnes Wellness, a genetic health strategist and a passionate advocate for helping high performers reclaim their energy, reverse burnout, and optimize their health using cutting-edge science. He works with entrepreneurs, executives, and driven professionals to decode their genetics, improve biological age, and build personalised wellness strategies that actually work. In today's conversation, we'll delve into the science of epigenetics, discuss how understanding your genetic blueprint can transform your health journey, what you can do to switch your genes on and off to improve your health and reduce your likelihood of chronic disease, and we'll explore practical biohacking techniques to enhance your well-being. So, whether you're a seasoned biohacker or just beginning your wellness journey, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Let's dive in. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the pod. Great to have you.
Hey, Ezra. So wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Look, I really want to cut through the noise about what epigenetics is because it's a big word, right? And a lot of people probably don't know what it is. Yeah. Can you explain what exactly is epigenetics and why should women in particular who want to live longer care about epigenetics?
Yeah, no, great question. And look, epigenetics simply is the study of gene expression and how that gene is expressed as a result of the environment, things like the way that we eat, the thoughts, the toxins we're exposed to. So simply, if you think of DNA like a list of ingredients, and epigenetics would be the instructions for that recipe, basically. So the information in the DNA is then influenced by epigenetics to express in a certain manner. And we now know that epigenetics is so influenced by our environment, our thoughts, our lifestyle, the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way that we think, is powerfully modifying the way that DNA is expressing. So when we think express, we're thinking turning on and off those genes to have some kind of biological function. And often we see that if people aren't looking after themselves, we see more negative aspects of those expressions that could lead to declining health for women in particular.
And so how significant is that percentage or that ratio between what impact genes have as opposed to what impact epigenetics have?
Yeah, look, it's a great question because, like, often we hear lines like, "Oh, I've got a family history of this disease," or I'm doomed because I've got these really bad genes. I look at both of these when I work with clients, and I can tell you that genes and DNA are very impactful and can be very impactful, but they're very much still influenced by epigenetics. You can still have genes that might be high risk, but if you provide all those inputs for better nutrition, better diet, better stress and resilience, we can see that those genes behave differently, and they do behave differently as well. So you can still carry high-risk genes that might be associated with poor health outcomes, but they may not express negatively for you if you do the right things. So definitely we're not destined and doomed by bad genetics. It can just compound the situation, and you do need to be a lot more mindful of supporting those. And when we look at those genes and the risk associated with it, it could be just lower detox ability in certain areas, or lower antioxidant protection, or just limited ability to activate certain nutrients in the manner that we need to. So once you can identify those weak points in your DNA, then epigenetically you can step in and provide inputs to upregulate the gene expression, so to fulfill the gap in there.
So I often hear clients say and blame their genes as to why they're experiencing certain health issues. You know, people often say, "Oh, it's in my genetic makeup," or, you know, "it's my genes." What are the key, and we know we can switch genes on and off, but what are those top 3 habits that you believe most powerfully shape our genetic expression?
No, I believe that when it comes to minimizing risk factors, we need to provide enough nutrients that nourish the process that deals with switching genes on and off, and that process is called methylation. And it's significant for switching genes on in the manner that they need to, and switching them off in the manner that they don't. And this is where the right type of food comes in. So foods rich in things known as methyl donors. So this is something that's essential for good methylation and the ability to switch these genes on and off to support health. So things like...
Before you go on, can you explain what methylation is? Because some people might not understand.
Wonderful question, because it can be confusing because there's, I guess, 2 different types of methylation that we refer to. There's methylation, the biochemical methylation in the body that deals with so many processes from detoxification and manufacturing the right type of brain chemistry, neurotransmitters. So in essence, it's just a methyl group, which is a bond that's added to that process to fulfill that biochemical process. But we also refer to DNA methylation, and that's adding in that methyl group onto points on our DNA to switch genes on and off. So that process is basically methylating a gene, switching it off, or unmethylating, which is switching it on.
Yeah, right. And so
yes.
What's the best way to switch those genes on and off?
To look after that whole cycle. So to exercise really well, to eat the right type of foods that are suited to you. And when I say suited to you, understanding your unique bio-individual needs. And that's where understanding genetics comes in, because you can start to see, okay, I've got a heightened need for more protein in my diet, or lower need for specific carbohydrates. I've got a high need for things like betaine or choline, and both of those nutrients are known as methyl donors. So they donate their methyl group to fulfill that, or real folate, because folate, there's 2 genes in particular that are really impactful in methylation in the body. And you may have heard of the genes MTHFR, very, very commonly quoted for a lot of issues. They depend on enough real folate. So leafy greens and avocados and liver and all those kind of foods are rich in real folate. So that folate and micronutrients like B2 and B3 and B6, B12, all these nutrients are really essential to get in your diet to support methylation. And then there's other types of foods that you can eat as well that just support that process, and they're called methyl adaptogens, and they just support the methylation process and protect DNA from damage and support that whole cycle as well. Yeah, so lots of foods that just provide those nutrients to support good MTHFR function and also good methylation will support the ability to methylate better and, in my opinion, just better function of epigenetics as well.
Definitely. I recently had my DNA test done, and it was interesting to see the results come back. I actually had 2 different types done. I had the one that you can get from the pharmacy, and they sent back the results, and it just was like, I don't know, in another language to me. I had no understanding what they were saying, even by the DNA app and so on. And then I went through a friend of mine who did it as well, and the results came back showing that I was the farmer type, and that I needed to have more choline, which is interesting because I eat so many eggs. And that I probably wasn't methylating as well as what I could be, but I had really high cognitive function and resilience and so on, and that I should be eating a Mediterranean diet. So it was all the insights exactly as you were just highlighting, which is really great because it validated the stuff that I'm already doing now, but it also highlighted opportunities for improvement for myself. And I think that when you have data like that, real, quality data like that, then you can actually implement changes or biohacks, as we say in our field, to be able to optimize your health, right? And rather than sitting there and doing some guesswork. But I think that it does it differ across different groups of people? Because what about elite athletes versus everyday women? Is it just a matter of who's willing to do the work and change their epigenetics, or does that play a factor as well in terms of how you use your body?
Yeah, look, there are absolutely genetics that play a role in elite performance because we can see the correlation in genetics between athletes and genes that affect muscle fiber type and the ability to generate force or higher VO2 max ability. And you tend to see those type of men and women gravitate towards sports, right? Because they're good at it and then they become very disciplined and put the effort in and then just go to that next level. But I like to stipulate that I believe everyone has epigenetic potential to get better in their system. You may not get to an elite level of sport with the motor that you have or the muscle mass. You can definitely improve in all those facets, and that's where just supporting those genetic needs, but then putting the effort in to bring about better epigenetic expression through turning up and exercising regularly, which starts to rewire that whole epigenome to burn fat better and to improve insulin sensitivity and just to recover better and keep inflammation lower. So that's where I think people should utilize that innate ability in themselves to get better, harnessing epigenetics and putting the effort in there and turning up to go to the gym or going for a walk or changing the way that you eat to get more protein in your diet or more of those methyl donor foods to support good methylation within the body.
Yeah, so it's not just going to happen naturally, people. You actually have to put in the work.
Very few, very, very few. I've played a lot of competitive sport, and there was always 1 or 2 in the team that never trained and would turn up and they could just run and they could even smoke and drink and still outrun most people. But I don't believe that genetics blesses everyone, and it eventually catches up with them, right? Because, eventually even great genetics will succumb to poor exposure to toxins and bad habits will change and alter that epigenome.
I experienced that firsthand. When I was younger, I used to think, I didn't think I did eat whatever I wanted to and hardly ever exercised. And I had a very high metabolism, which I still do. But, probably when I hit about my 40s, that metabolism started to slow down a little bit. I'm like, I might actually need to go to the gym and start going to work out. I played other sports when I was younger and I'm a horse rider as well, so that always kept me fit. But actually going to the gym and starting to do resistance training and things like that, it really made a difference for me. What's the biggest myth that you encounter about genetic destiny and how does epigenetics completely reframe that, do you think?
Oh, look, I think we touched on that initially, just that we are stuck with our genetics, right? In a sense, we are stuck with them, but we're not doomed for poor or ill health if we're carrying genetic variants. Because as we know that when it comes to genes, you can still possess genes. It could be high risk MTHFR, But if you're doing everything in your environment to support better habits, then epigenetically they can be fine. So just because you've got bad genes, it's no excuse just to, I guess, accept a poor fate with health. You should use it as a motivating driver just to knuckle down and support your health better, knowing that you can do so much to, just unleash better epigenetic potential.
Yeah. What are the most overlooked but epigenetically potent changes that people can make in their day-to-day routines? I mean, I think you've highlighted some of them, but is there anything that's like that are the must-haves?
I would say when it comes to sleep, going to bed and getting up around the same time every single day is foundational to good circadian rhythm as well, and supporting good foundations of sleep. And then when you do wake up, probably one of the things that's very neglected but is so systemically powerful on our health and on our genetic expression, in particular clock genes, is getting out and looking at the sun and getting natural sunlight first thing in the morning for 5 to 10 minutes is powerful, just to set up the rhythm of that circadian rhythm, and our genes run on that. And we're learning that even our methylation cycle is influenced by that circadian rhythm and natural light as well. So I would say, getting out and getting natural light first thing. And the other thing beyond just eating well is regular effective exercise. And when I say effective exercise, I mean not over-exercising, not under-exercising, but just getting enough to stimulate good circulation, good mitochondrial function, all those good survival and reparative genes that activate with exercise as well. I had an extensive history running gyms, and I could see so many people just tipping themselves out of balance with exercise, thinking that they're doing the right thing, but they're highly stressed, bordering burnout, and then thinking my release is coming and smashing myself with high intensity interval training or just lengthy exercise. It can be very detrimental because it is a stressor on the system as well. So I say effective exercise because most people probably don't realize that you actually don't need to do that much exercise to get a lot of benefit out of it. And there's so many variations.
I agree. I think a lot of those intense exercises, functional type or HIIT type, if you do them for too long, I think it just creates so much inflammation in the body. And I know that firsthand because that's what happened to me. I used to do a lot of functional training, and I think you need to take into consideration your age as well. And I don't mean that age should be a limit to how we exercise, but it is a contributing factor, particularly from an inflammation perspective, because it's such a huge contributor to disease, isn't it? There's a lot of hype around testing. Like you mentioned some clocks. So there's our circadian rhythms, but there's methylation clocks, there's DNA health reports, there's epigenetic panels. I mean, people can get confused around all of this. So what do you recommend people to get done, and what actually works?
Yeah, look, I can understand because there's so many different tests out there, because I look at a lot of them and I use a lot of them as well. And they can be very absolutely overwhelming because there's so many different aspects, and many different types of tests are using very different testing technology, right? So there's still first generation testing, and then second and then third generation epigenetic clocks, which look more at the effects of aging and what can be driving aging, whereas some of the earlier clocks would just look at biological age, and then some of the early ones would just look at predicting chronological age. So they're very different. And look, you can jump on a set of scales and get told a biological age. And I'm like, how is it kind of working that out? I don't really think that that's overly accurate. So look, I think you do need to take it with a grain of salt with some of those cheaper options. Some of the more robust ones, and we use them through a company called True Diagnostic, and they're the latest generation DNA methylation clocks, and they're working in conjunction with some wonderful minds with universities like Harvard and Yale to create these new, I guess, surrogates for testing biomarkers in the body compared to normal like blood biomarkers, but then using training and AI to compare them to those, and then track populations to see how these biomarkers are influencing health and pace of aging and potential mortality and disease. So it's quite interesting. And a lot of them are able to predict better than the normal blood biomarkers. So I would say do some due diligence when looking into some of those different types of testing. I would say the DNA testing, just looking at the hard DNA, has been around for a long time and it's quite effective now. I would also say get it interpreted by somebody that understands the relationships, because you can put it into a few apps and get some information, but it really is quite complex, and understanding the relationships between different types of genes and how those haplotypes can then compound and create a lot of issues, but also getting feedback from the client as well. Because you got to ask those questions, right? Like you could be told, oh, you're full-blown lactose intolerance, but you have lactose and you feel wonderful. So you do need to get some feedback as well to see if some of those things are actually influencing and affecting you, or rather than just going, okay, I've been told I can't have this, I have to avoid it for the rest of my life. It's not always that simple. So yeah, definitely look for really reputable providers and using some of the latest algorithms and things like the Dunedin pace of aging. That is quite a useful predictor of health outcomes, and it's based on a lot of research that's been going for about 40 years. So yeah, look into the types of testing that you're doing, and also just use it as needed. Are you doing this testing to track how your diet and lifestyle interventions are working for those biomarkers and outcomes? Or are you just using it as a bit of a novelty to give you a kick along to go, okay, yeah, I'm accelerated with my age. I need to knuckle down and get back into eating well, sleeping well, looking after my stress response. And all of the above are useful, right? Some people like to measure those biomarkers with DNA methylation testing every 3 months and with vigilance, and they're taking 50 plus supplements every single day. Others just want to get a baseline and then go and get stuck into loving their training and loving surfing and getting out there and eating better, and then maybe coming back in 12 months just to make sure the body isn't chronically inflamed, or you're not carrying some real immune senescence in your immune system, which could catch up with you, especially as we age. We know that we kind of go through stages of aging at certain points where, it can impact our system a lot more. So I think as we age, we need to be mindful of just really supporting those and measuring how things are working for us.
And so some of these tests, and I've done some of them, but they can be a little bit expensive, right? Yeah. What are the benefits, though, of getting the tests, which sort of, I suppose, outweighs the costs of those particular tests?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've had this conversation a lot with people, and the perception on pricing and health. I'm like, what would you pay? Like, I lost my dad at 65, and he was a big catalyst in me getting into this trajectory of my career from being in the fitness industry, missing like all of our children and being around for all those things. What price would he pay to have this information that could have better navigated his health in his life? And what price would you pay to know how to better support those underlying pathways that nobody tells us, right? Like we grow up and hit our 30s, 40s, 50s, and then we get really serious about our health and want to know this information. I think the information's there to know how to better navigate declining health by supporting detox pathways, supporting the reparative nature of our DNA, and stopping things like cancer risk, because there are genes that suppress cancer. And we look at those, and I look at these daily in people, and people are worried about those things in their life. And then you look at the patterns, and it's high risk for lower enzyme activity on some of these suppressor genes. And you're like, okay, if you're not looking after yourself and you're highly stressed and you're not sleeping well, and then you're definitely not supporting that gene with the types of epigenetic modifiers that can help upregulate the expression of that, you might get a scary surprise down the line. And normally it's a doctor's appointment where you're told you've got something scary. And I think spending $700 or $1,000 as a one-off test to better understand your health needs is a drop in the ocean when we waste so much money on tech, like $1,500 on a new iPhone, or we spend $10,000 on a holiday overseas, which is wonderful because I'm all for travel and experiences and things. But like your health at the end of the day, and being around long enough to really have an impact on your family and just have an impact in whatever it is that you want to do in your life, warrants spending a bit more on yourself, right? I believe.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing is, if you're sick, if you have a chronic illness, you're probably not going to be able to travel, right? So
we're not going to travel well, right? Like I know, like even going back to my dad, like one of his last trips, like I remember Mum saying, like he could barely walk and keep up, like with the rest of the group. I'm like, that sucks. You want to be like in your 50s and your 60s, 70s, functional and vital and getting out and enjoying all that there is out there, right? And it's 100% possible, and you're leading the way in that as well with what you do with women as well. Like we need to start to shift the perception on what's possible as we age and declining perception that aging is just declining, because I think that's crap.
I completely agree with you. So many women, I feel, and men too, I think, get to a certain age. I think it's only the retirement age, 65, and they're like, oh yeah, it's time to slow down. And it's like, I'm just getting old and, I can't do that. Or I can't do that anymore because I'm 70 now and there's no way I could climb a mountain at the age of 70. And I'm like, why not? Like, are you physically able to? If yes, then do it. The age should not be a barrier, I don't think. If you're physically and cognitively able to do it, then go out there and do it and live your life, right? And the only way you can do that, as you're highlighting today, is to be able to look after ourselves and to really put in the work now to be able to ensure that we can do those things that we're really passionate about and enjoy later in life. You mentioned stress earlier, and I mean, it's such a big one, right? I mean, stress is one of the most destructive forces on our genes. What have you found to be the most epigenetically effective stress reduction practice?
Yeah, no, great question. And it's 100% one of the biggest drivers for chronic inflammation. And we know that chronic inflammation is driving accelerated aging. So there's a number of facets there, right? Like you need to get on top of chemical stresses in the body that are coming from toxicity and all those things that can make us unwell. But emotional stress is probably the biggest thing for a lot of people as well. So many people, and you touched on it there just in the language when you were chatting to people about how they perceive aging and the language that you're telling yourself internally is a stressor on the body. And I see it every day. And I've been there at periods in my life where I haven't emotionally regulated myself as well. And you're anxious and you're worrying and you're putting defeating thoughts into your system, right? All of those are feeding into your epigenome. And then your body's going, okay, there's a threat here. I'm worried. Goes into like a protective state. And we're seeing that as well in like a downregulation of all those pathways that support optimal methylation, optimal survival, things like sirtuins and NRF2 and all those protective genes. You need to start to regulate this better and feed positive thoughts and affirmations and break down any of those limiting beliefs and the language that you use. One of the biggest things since having children is that my wife and I are so mindful of the types of words we say around our children and the language we use, because they all carry a weight and they can shift somebody's belief, and they can those children and people can then go and have those beliefs, but also for ourselves as well. So we're very big on positive affirmations and rewiring those thoughts, because I think it makes you more resilient and less stressed and happier. And that's going to lead to better genetic expression, epigenetic expression, and better health. So regulating that and just doing the work as well, right? Balancing the workload that we had. So we love chasing our dreams and our corporate jobs, but sometimes, and I see it often in people, it's at the expense of ourselves and our health. We don't put downtime in there to walk and go to the beach and do the things that we love, or to catch up with the people that we like to be around, or just to slow down and switch this off. This constant state of being on our phones is I believe, a chronic stressor on people as well, that is affecting people's health. And we need to get back to the state where we work and then we have rest and balance that whole state as well, just to better regulate that.
Yeah. And there's a whole nother level of stress, I believe, that people can experience, whether they've gone through trauma or they're experiencing chronic illness already. Do you think that can be reversed, that the epigenetic changes from that can be reversed, or are there things that just leave a permanent genetic scar?
Look, I think that they can definitely be overridden, because when we look at epigenetics, it's very fluid, right? Like it's a bit like neuroplasticity, where we can rewire new neural pathways. We are constantly putting different stamps and stickers down on parts of our genes through methylation that then alter how things are read. And we can see that passed down transgenerationally through poor diet or exposure to certain chemicals that leave an imprint on the offspring. And then that alters the function of whether it's their metabolic health or a mum that's exposed to a lot of trauma and stress, that effect on the epigenome getting passed down, and they can alter the stress response on the child, and they can be really anxious or really worried as a result of that. But I do believe, based on the research, that it can be worked on and rewired and then retrained with different stickers. And we see that with weight loss as well. Some interesting research that was done showing that people that become obese and overweight alters their epigenome in that way. But then going back and training can become really challenging to lose that weight. It just doesn't want to budge, right? Because you're still dealing with those pathways. But just a constant effort and retraining and rewiring over the period of months will then shift that, and then it gets easier, and then it starts to shape in a more favorable manner, just for better physiology and better weight loss. So I would say, yes, there's a lot. And look, I'm not an expert in trauma release, but I do believe that there's some wonderful people out there with modalities that can retrain that stress response, and also some of the latest tech that works on frequencies as well, because a lot of that trauma is like trapped emotional energy, right, in the body. And I've used some health tech, which is frequency into the body. And it's interesting because it puts a lot of different frequencies through that vital body. And some of the thoughts that start to pop into your mind of events, whether it's loss of loved ones or anxious feelings, it's quite interesting. It's definitely, in my opinion, moving things along. So I think there's some luck. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've experienced childhood trauma myself, and I know that I sort of recently identified that I hadn't dealt with it all, and it was a result of inflammation in my body and so on. And I went and had some hypnotherapy done, that specialized hypnotherapy around this, and that's really helped me really release a lot of that and not be triggered either. But Dr. Gabor Mate, he's an absolute, world-renowned expert in trauma. So for any of our listeners who would like to get some more information around how trauma impacts the body, I would suggest that they read some of his books or jump on YouTube and watch some of his videos, because he's brilliant. Epigenetic needs differ between men and women, do you think? I mean, how does it differ? And especially around, for women in particular, around menopause, when those hormonal shifts are happening, can the impact of gene expression dramatically change around that time in women's lives?
Yeah, good question. I believe so, yes. Men and women are very differently in terms of our makeup, our hormones as well. And we do know that perimenopause, menopausal state alters hormones significantly, and hormones themselves and the shifting balance of those can significantly alter epigenetic expression as well. So it is something that I believe women entering that phase need to be really mindful of, and really need to look at those areas of support that they need, because a lot of people carry some significant genes that can affect methylation, and we know that methylation gets impacted in menopause, and that can then lead to energetic issues, additional hormone issues, detox issues, up and down moods and things like that. But I do believe in balancing those hormones offers a lot of relief, and also just supporting methylation in general has got to help, and supporting all those foundational things that we've kind of touched on here about diet and exercise and sleep has to help, because some women do have estrogen receptor differences, which can make them more prone to some heavier symptoms in menopause. But again, that's just the gear and risk of that. I think if epigenetically you modify that with better inputs, better diet, better detox practices, and just better hormone optimization that's available now, women don't need to suffer through that phase and shouldn't.
No, absolutely. You mentioned some detox practices. What are your favorite detox practices that you would recommend?
Absolutely. It's hard to beat a good sauna. Yeah. I think sauna, whether it's traditional Swedish or infrared, just really helps open up all those detox pathways. And if you've got sluggish clearance pathways with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, sauna's going to help step over a lot of those and just help lymphatic flow, which is important, increase circulation, and then all those just heat shock proteins and everything, which is just so supportive to great health as well. And then diet as well. So making sure that the food that you're putting in your body is as clean as possible. We're living in a toxic soup. You need filtered water, a good water filtration unit, probably foundational. Don't drink tap water. Make sure it's either good quality spring water or a really good remineralized RO system, reverse osmosis, just because there's so many compounds and toxins that go into the water, and even showers and things as well. And then eating a diet that's really rich in cruciferous vegetables, probably one of the best foods that women and men can eat. When I look at genetics, a lot of men and women have a lot of estrogen metabolite clearance issues with certain genes, which can be very damaging to the DNA. Things like cabbage and cauliflower and broccoli and pak choi, all those Asian greens are wonderful for helping to balance estrogen in general, but also they contain a thing called calcium D-glucarate, and that's wonderful at excreting these metabolites out of the system, supporting good phase 2 detox of the liver as well. So simple to eat those foods regularly, and it's just going to really support good detox. So definitely sauna, cruciferous veggies, filter your water as a hat trick there, move your body regularly.
Yeah. And what I love about all of these recommendations is that they're all achievable, and they're not cost prohibitive, really. I mean, you can eat well on a budget. They say that frozen vegetables, you can get good quality frozen vegetables, and it's still higher in nutrients than what fresh vegetables are, often because by the time it gets harvested and gets put on the truck, and then gets transported and then gets frozen, refrigerated again, by the time it gets to the shelves, it's lost its nutrition, right? So unless you're going to a farmer's market or something like that where you just been harvested the day before. And so I think that sometimes I hear clients say that they can't do some of these things, or that biohacking is so expensive, and it's not achievable. And it actually is, because there are so many biohacks that people can implement that are cost-free. Like you said, getting up early in the morning and going out and getting blue light exposure and managing your circadian rhythms and getting a good quality night's sleep and getting that circadian clock sorted and going to sleep in a regular time frame. They're just cost-free things that people can easily implement. I think it's also, though, one of the hindrances potentially is that because this is something that is not necessarily commonly known, and that, the biological age testing, that's just these weird tech bro guys that have got, dollars to throw at getting, their bodies tested and challenged. And that has its place, absolutely, because they're sort of leading the way. But do you think that most healthcare systems are lagging behind when it comes to applying epigenetic science? Or is it something that it's starting to broaden in terms of awareness and its potential?
First, yes, I think there's still a lag in adopting this, and probably still quite a way behind where we need to be. But I do believe there's a lot of push by the population. People want this type of testing now. There's a lot of really big vocal platforms, both in Australia and internationally, really talking about the benefits of this type of testing as well. Do I believe that your local GP is going to offer these straight up to somebody going in? No, I don't think. But I think there's some wonderful integrative clinics and doctors that are really on top of this now. And I'm excited that they are and promoting this as well. But I think so many Australians are still going to be left a bit behind when this is possibly still out of their budget, per se. If there was a way that people could access this through a broader medium, it would support so many people's health a lot more. But I think until that changes, it's going to be still fringe biohacking community, and then integrative alternate health that see the benefits in getting deeper and deep understanding of people's bio-individual needs. And that's it, right? Like, we need to get away from this one-size-fits-all approach to health, because it's so archaic and outdated, because we can see that in the way that people responded food, to vitamins, to medications. We can see, some of those really need to be individualized to support people better.
I know that some of the integrative practitioners that I've been engaged with have struggled with being able to communicate what they do and the benefits of communicating what they do because of restrictions that are in place from a government standpoint perspective. And I really think that there is an opportunity there for government to really come along with the times and have a better understanding of the opportunities to be able to support proactive, personalised healthcare management moving forward, compared to this reactive approach that Western medicine has historically had. And so it'll be great to see, for instance, how like Medicare rebates for, functional medical practitioners, rather than people having to fork out $400 and not be able to get any of that back, regardless of whether that's number or anything like that. I think that would be our first step. A great
Imagine
step.
that. Imagine people could use their private health to get a genetic test for their whole family, right? Or to access some of these other healing modalities and testing modalities, just to have a preventative approach to health, which is going to have a massive reduction on the healthcare system, right? People don't get sick.
Absolutely. It's great for humans. It's great for the government. It's great for the broader population generally because it reduces taxes as well. It reduces the impulse on our healthcare systems and our aged care facilities. I mean, there's so many opportunities here, and unfortunately, I'm not really seeing it happen here in Australia yet. And hopefully now with the increasing pop-ups of these longevity clinics that we're starting to see come through, and the biohacking summits that are starting to, be planned and so on, I think that perhaps that's going to start to raise broader awareness of what's happening within this space and the benefits of it for the broader population, not just for the biohacking community who are often perceived as being extreme. When we're talking about longevity, there are so many different biohacks that we can all implement, right? And many of us who are in this space do multiple different biohacks. But for you, what's one longevity biohack that you personally never skip?
Exercise. No. I had to think about that when you sent me through just some ideas of themes for this, because there's so many things that I like to do, and getting natural sunlight in the morning as well. But I went for a run before this, and I'm like, this is the best medicine. This just is so powerful for shifting. I know what it does internally from a biomarker perspective, but mentally, how good you feel when you exercise. Just feeling that way, if you do that regularly, it has to have a profound impact on aging. So I would say exercise, and it's free for people to do. There's a lot of wonderful peptides and gadgets that can help with aging. But I think, exercise, if they could bottle that and sell it as a pill, it would be the number one longevity molecule.
And it is. It is, right? It really is scientifically backed that, exercise is probably one of the best things you can do from a longevity perspective, right? Because of how it does impact the body and what it can do to support longevity. And you're right. There are lots of other things that you can do. And we've seen, people go out and, go and get the genetic, what's it called? Where they go, they get the, I forgot what it's called, the injections. Genetic injections to
there's so many injections, right? Like NAD infusions and
no, it was like about that, like completely
or stem cells.
Yeah, well, not even no. That was like the next level. It was like I think Brian Johnson would have had it done in some sort of South American island or something somewhere.
Oh, wow. I know there's a lot, like there's exosomes and
it costs like lots and lots of
I bet it does.
It's like $700,000 or something like that.
Okay. Not really accessible, right, for most.
No, but the thing is it was what it does is that I think it was able to improve his muscle by something like 7%, or there's a guy here in Australia as well that has had it done, and it's sort of thing. I'm like, you can just achieve the same thing by going and doing some strength training, can't you?
Well, exactly, a bit of creatine and then protein and good diet, and actually go to the gym for 6 months. But it'd be interesting. There was a recent study I saw. Which was actually testing the effects of a certain diet on reversing biological age, and it was a diet that was incorporating those methyl donor foods, so things like liver, eggs, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, rosemary, curcumin or turmeric, things like green tea, and they were able to reverse biological age in this group by, I think it was 1.25 years in the space of 12 weeks, which was significant just based on some lifestyle changes and eating a certain way. So look, you can spend astronomical amounts of money to achieve that, which is great if you've got that. But I do believe that there's a powerful modality there for a lot of people through diet and exercise and lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. And as you were listing all those off, I was mentally going, tick, 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 tick. And it is. I mean, this is the thing, as we've been discussing, it doesn't have to be all the technology. It doesn't have to be the peptides, there are, and all the expensive supplements necessarily, though I do feel supplements have a place because, our nutrient absorption, as you would probably support as well, is not always great for, individual. Like I know that I struggle with certain nutrient absorption as well. And so that's where supplements do have a place. But if you come back to doing that baseline testing, then where you can spend your money to supplement, whether you're deficient in zinc or B12 or whatever it might be, then that's where you'd spend your money. For a listener who wants to start changing their epigenetic destiny today, what's the very first step that they should take?
They should jump on and reach out to my website. and start that conversation. Like have a chat about the benefits of getting some of this testing. Put budget aside and put your health forward and get curious and start asking those questions and start looking a little bit deeper into how to support your body through genetic and epigenetic testing as well. Because I think it is one of the best investments anyone can do when it comes to finding out how to better support your health and also the health of your families, because there's a lot of people now that are actually doing these types, not so much the epigenetic testing for bioage and everything, but just a comprehensive DNA test to find out how to support their children. Like I've done children that are under 1 with genetic testing where their parents are just really proactive and interested in supporting their development from a young age.
How great is that?
Yeah, it's just wonderful. It's just like so thoughtful.
And just like, I'm just thinking in terms of the fact that they're being so proactive in looking after their children's health in that way right from the get-go. I mean, I've got 3 kids, but this sort of stuff wasn't necessarily around back when I had my children. And, I didn't even know about it back then. So, for people to be aware that that's an option for them to be able to help their child continue to nourish and grow in a very healthy way and really even start to understand their genes right from the very beginning and start to implement some epigenetic behaviors which are going to help support switching those genes on and off in a positive way. I mean, what a gift is that to your child's health and future? I think it's absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And look, it goes beyond just nourishing them from like a supplement and a dietary perspective. Like genes give us a lot of understanding into propensities for behavior. So anxiety, depression, fear responses, learning challenges based on certain neurotransmitters as well. So you can start to preempt those and better support those so they don't just go down the pathway of being diagnosed. They've got ADHD and they get put on medication. There's a lot of pathways that can be supported if they are carrying these risks that can lead to those type of symptoms. So it's best to support those first, and then if that's needed down the line, then so be it. But I see a lot of people that are probably they go straight to treating the symptoms with prescription drugs when it may not actually be the underlying issue.
And it's really interesting because I was about to ask you, do you get many clients coming with children who have ADHD or are on the spectrum that they're able to look at implementing some of these epigenetics to be able to, change some of that? Have you experienced and supported that?
Very much so. Yeah, I've actually done reports for a number of children that have been medicated for ADHD, and I can clearly see genes that can influence things like MTHFR genes in particular and low coding on those. So folate metabolism, B12 metabolism, even genes that influence ADHD-like symptoms. If the child is exposed to artificial colors and preservatives in food, can create more attention deficit-like symptoms. So these are the things you need to identify, look at the diet, correct, see if it improves, and then act accordingly, because all those underlying pathways are not getting supported when you're just treating that symptom, right?
What a great opportunity for people who, like you said, unfortunately, Western medicine, and people might think I'm bagging Western medicine all the time, and I'm not. It does have its place, absolutely has its place, but it's just that the traditional way of treating in Western medicine is to treat the symptoms, right? And I feel like it's just band-aiding the problem rather than identifying the root cause. But through what you've just explained, that's an opportunity for families to be able to really look at what's going on there from a genetic perspective and implementing very simple, again, potentially cost-free hacks, measures, lifestyle changes that they can do in order to be able to support their child to develop in a much more supportive, way. I think that's just amazing to be able to do that.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Now, where can people get in contact with you? You mentioned you've got a website. Rattle that off for us. I'll also pop it in the show notes.
I do have a website. It's chrisbarneswellness.com.au. So nice and simple. Yeah.
Great. And I know you've got an Instagram account as well, so I'll pop that in the show notes as well of people. And also people can, if they want to get their biological age test, or if they want to get their DNA tested, they can come to you to be able to get that done as well. So look Chris up, everyone, if you're looking at getting that done. So True Diagnostics is also a really great test from a biological age perspective and very comprehensive. I've had that done before. And for those that are curious, it is one that is used by a lot of the top biohackers as well internationally. There's even a competition board as well, I believe.
There is.
The hackers in terms of who's doing that. I've only found that out recently. So it's interesting to see who's on the top leadership board. Not who I thought it was going to be. Interesting. All right, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great having a chat with you.
Thank you so much, Azra. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And if you'd like to learn more about biohacking, go ahead and sign up on my website at www.biohack-her.com to get a free copy of my 5 top biohacks to get you kick-started. While you're there, you can also check out my blog page for more tips on biohacking. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so on Apple, Spotify, and Google Play. Let us know if there's anyone you'd like us to talk to in particular, and we'll endeavour to get them on the podcast. Until next time, remember to live well longer.